Hi, and welcome to ThreatTraq Essentials. We're going to review some of the everyday cybersecurity lessons that we can learn from this week's stories on ThreatTraq. Now, the first came to us from John Hogeboom. It was about GitHub. GitHub is a website where software developers share code with other software developers to include in their apps. Now, what was discovered is that a lot of the code that developers were sharing inadvertently contained some very sensitive information, things like passwords and authentication keys. So even software developers needed to learn that they need to be very, very careful about the information they share online. And that's a great lesson for all of us, right? We all need to be careful about the information we share online. Remember, once information is on the internet, it is very difficult, if not impossible, to get rid of it. Our next story was brought to us by Brian Rexroad. It was about ransomware. He called it the fall and rise of ransomware, meaning that in 2018, it seemed that ransomware attacks were declining a little bit, but now it seems that they're back. Now, if you're not familiar with it, ransomware is a form of malware that gets on a computer, encrypts or locks all the data on it, and then demands that the user pay a ransom to get their data unencrypted, in other words, to get it back. Now, the biggest lesson to take away from this is, first of all, avoid getting ransomware in the first place by practicing safe internet hygiene. That means don't click on strange links and don't open any strange attachments that come to you in an email. Another key point to remember is if your computer gets infected with ransomware, do not pay the ransom. Remember, these guys are already criminals because they're holding your data hostage. There's no guarantee that if you pay the ransom, you're going to get your data back. But perhaps the best way to protect yourself is to keep good backups of your data. Now think about it for a minute. If you had a valuable work of art that was one of a kind and someone stole it and demanded money to give it back to you, you'd be stuck. You'd have to pay the money. But your data is not a one-of-a-kind work of art. It is easily duplicated. So keep good backups. Keep backups physically isolated from your computer. That way, if you ever get ransomware, you don't have to pay the ransom to get your data back. You already have a good backup of your data. Our last story came to us from Manny Ortiz, and it was about hidden directories in content management systems. Now, when you're browsing the web, you may think that when you go to a page, that you're just looking at that page. However, behind that page is a lot of infrastructure, a lot of directories and files that support it that you don't see. These are the hidden directories we're talking about. Now, a content management system is this kind of software of something like WordPress, something maybe you would use to have a blog or maintain a web page for a community organization or your kids' lacrosse team. What's been happening is that malware has been getting into those hidden directories, and bad actors have been using those directories to run malicious operations out of it. It would be like if someone was running a crime syndicate out of your garage and you didn't know about it. So what can you do about that? The best defense here is to keep your web page and the content management system up to date. Always patch to the latest version of the software. Always patch and update the plugins. Those are those little extra add-ons that you add to a web page to give it functionality. Try to keep those plugins to a minimum, and especially always update third-party plugins. Try to stay on top of that because that's where the vulnerabilities happen. That's it for this week's ThreatTraq Essentials. As always, if you want to learn more about any of these stories, click on the links below for a deeper dive. We'll see you next time.